We all set? Nancy,
Hi, who joined us?
Ronnie?
Vicki Tripp.
Hi, Vicki. If everybody could make sure that your phone is on silent until we call on you to speak, that would be great. Thank you.
Is that it? Are we ready? You're all set? Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Today is Tuesday, June 30th, 2020. The time is 1:05 p.m. This is a special meeting to consider the future of the North Idaho Fair, at least for this calendar year, which of course is 2020, as to whether or not to proceed. And so this is a public meeting. It is not a public hearing. As such, public comment will be held at the end. And so we'll be taking testimony, if you will, from Director Laura Whalen from Panhandle Health, our Executive Director of the Fair, Alexia Jordan, and her Vice Chair as well. And so we'll listen to what they have to say. The reason that I was delayed, by the way, I was on the phone with an attorney from ICRIMP. For those of you who aren't aware, ICRIMP insures us. So the question that I had of him, and I'll be very open about it, was if the recommendation is to not proceed and we do proceed, what's our liability? And it's kind of an open question because what it comes down to is we are not insured against pollutants. The virus is considered a pollutant, but I'll leave it at that. For somebody to prove, however, that they contracted the virus because of the fair is a whole other matter, but be that as it may. So what I'm doing is officially calling the meeting to order. We did start at 1:05 p.m. Attending are Commissioners Duncan, Brooks, and Filios. Do we have any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, the one and only item, 2020 North Idaho State Fair status discussion with Fair Director Alexia Jordan and our North Idaho Fair Board of Directors. So, Alexia, would you like to lead us off, or should we start with Director Whalen?
Yeah, so I'd be happy to start, Commissioner Filios. Thank you, Alexia. I truly appreciate our community. I appreciate Alexia, who reached out and has been in touch just with what's going on in our community and where are we headed. And a couple of weeks ago, I would have told you, we're doing okay. Today, we're on a trajectory. We're at 315 cases in the 5 northern counties as of 10 o'clock, 10:30 this morning. 255 of those are known Kootenai County cases. Certainly the bulk of our cases are coming from Kootenai County. The crowd, is a younger crowd right now that is contracting the virus. It's a crowd that is going into social settings, bars, restaurants, and spreading it, contracting it that way, and then taking it home to mom, dad, and grandma, grandpa, and who knows. I mean, what we're looking at today is a result of behaviors a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. So my expectation is, this weekend, what is it going to lead to? All sorts of more cases, and it's a wear on our system. Believe me, the testing. There's 400 people in line right now to get tested on Ironwood. Traffic's backed up. It's a nightmare. You've got police presence there. Kootenai Health is overwhelmed with their testing. We'll be reaching out. I think you'll hear from your EOC. For some support there, and perhaps a different testing site, and how can we help them with testing with more folks? So we are, we're in desperate mode to help Kootenai Health, also to help with the call center. I think we got 500. We had 592 calls yesterday, 592 calls, and then that leads to the contact tracing, right? It's all just kind of feeds on itself, contacting folks who have a positive test and advising them what to do and looking at who was their close circle of contacts. Some of them have as many as 48 that were, they were all at a Father's Day event. There's a lot of different scenarios. Just trying to keep the community safe. So, what will we see with, there's a lot of different things we look at. Hospitalizations, how many in the ICU, how many on the floor, how many in the ICU on a vent. Currently, we don't have any. in the hospital here locally in Kootenai County. Will it stay that way? Not if you talk to the experts. Not with this trajectory we're on. So, the hospital's preparing, and they're nervous. We need to get a handle on ED visits with COVID-like symptoms. We look at those. And healthcare workers, how many healthcare workers are contracting this? And we've had a handful in this last batch. I think we had 3 or 4 healthcare workers. New cases, active cases, and active cases are cases that we're monitoring. And I think today we're actively monitoring 194 cases. A huge percentage increase from 2-3 weeks ago. PPE, personal protective equipment. How much is out there in our community, in our long-term care facilities, in our hospital? Do they have adequate supply? And then certainly ventilators available and ICU beds available. So, I appreciate that the community is coming together to try to mitigate and educate and not create events that mass gatherings happen. That the chamber canceled the fair, that Rathdrum Days is considering canceling Rathdrum, that the Fair Board is considering canceling the fair, because that sets us up for less cases in the future and less impact on our system. And truly, if we end up,
Hey, I'm sorry, can you put yourself on mute, please, until we're ready to speak to you? Thank you.
Go right ahead, Director Whitlam.
Thank you. I certainly don't want us to be in a situation what happened in Ada County in Boise. One day late last week they had 109 new cases come in, 109. And talk about overwhelming the system. And ultimately, I don't want this disease to affect us economically any more than it already has. I don't want to see anything having to shut down. I'm going to be meeting with some bar owners and our mayor this week, just to, let's put some common sense. We know what works. We know that cloth face coverings, they're going to be, you can't use those in a bar necessarily, or can you? I don't know. They work, as does social distancing. Maybe limiting some of the patronage in these social settings. Because that right now is where our cases are primarily coming from. A few health care issues. But yes, I think as a community, I'm really pleased that we have these forward thinkers, such as Alexia and her Fair Board.
So can I ask some questions? So this spike, I've heard over and over, it's from bars. It's not from mass gatherings. So
It's all over, Commissioner. We've had some of the recent ones that I've been privy to, some of the clusters coming from graduation parties, coming from Father's Day gatherings, coming from yes. And and are those mass gatherings? No, they're they're 20, 30 people. We haven't had. I can't give you a specific on a mass gathering that I'm aware of that this is associated with. We haven't had a lot of mass gatherings here.
well, I'm just looking at churches and stuff that have been operating for the last 7 weeks, and
We've had
other
yeah.
events that the fair has had with those people, and I haven't heard of anything like that. It sounds like more intimate gatherings, like bar would be more intimate, at Father's Day, at a graduation. Those are all more intimate than what I look as the fair. I might talk to, I don't know, maybe 4 people that I know when I go to the fair within a certain amount of distance, but the fair in general, I don't come in contact with that many people. Even if it's crowded, I'm just basing it on what I've done in the past. So to me, once again, it doesn't sound like there's a lot of evidence that these large gatherings are where this spike is coming from. And I know that some of our numbers from increased testing, because I know there's a huge push for increased testing, and if there's increased testing, of course, we're going to get more positives.
Right. And we look at the positivity rate of those increased tests, and we're seeing a little bit of an increase in the positivity rate. That's kind of the ratio we look at. Certainly some of the data that's coming out from the protests that have been happening, certainly I think some of the spikes that we're seeing in some of the other, larger cities are due to that, and that's certainly, I think, considered a mass gathering. The media isn't really tying that together, at least on the news. I look at what's going on in Spokane. I see a lot of Spokane plates here. And the fair, I think, draws people from all over, including the workers, the vendors. It's based on what I'm seeing and the overload of the systems that we've got with the testing and the tracing and the call center. This is the public health recommendation. It is a recommendation. Certainly I'm not in any position to say halt, but for public health, I think our community coming together and looking at mass gatherings and not sanctioning them, not having a venue where people are encouraged to come together and potentially spread this virus is why public health is making this recommendation.
Okay, so apparently I missed something. I didn't realize you made a recommendation.
In speaking with Alexia, I did chat with her. She asked me what my I'll make a recommendation when somebody asks me directly, and Alexia did, and I gave her that recommendation.
Okay, so what is the recommendation?
That we don't hold the fair.
Okay, so in any shape or form, or get rid of the rodeo and the concert and have 4-H? I mean, just absolutely not any part of it, or there's certain parts that?
I'd have to understand what parts and how many people. I think that it's a risk, and our system right now, and it is. I mean, we're not at the edge, but we're really stretched, and what we're going to be seeing, and again, this is just based on what other places have seen. When you have this spike in cases, we're going to start stressing the hospital. I keep saying that. I haven't seen that, but I do believe it's going to happen.
And what's interesting, excuse me, up until a few weeks ago, when you were communicating with Alexia, and she had put a plan together for the fair, you actually at that time felt that it was too conservative. So your position then, based on what was occurring, was that it looked like we could go forward, that things were genuinely improving. So for you to be now recommending that we cancel, that's a striking difference. And given your prior position, I don't think you came to this conclusion easily.
No, we had, a few weeks back, we have 120 cases. I didn't think we would reach 200 by the 4th of July. We're at 315.
Right. But once again, and we probably won't know this until a week or two, but once again, we don't have the hospitalizations. I mean, it doesn't appear that these people are very ill. And we've heard over and over again, it's, like a 90% mild case rate, 99 point something survival rate over and over again. So it's hard to plan 2 months in advance right now, when I think we have a great opportunity to see how this is going to play out, see how this age group handles it, see how we're going to be able to look at things. Now, Alexia's got other issues that we can't make a decision, the week before. We have to make it in advance, but I kind of want to hear from Alexia at this point to see if there's other options or other ideas, or that's it. But I thank you for your.
Bill, do you have any questions for Director Whalen?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Alexia, floor is yours. Or the chair, whichever you prefer.
Can you hear me fine? Okay.
Just
Pull it in closer.
Pull it in
please.
close.
All right, I'm just going to tell you why we are where we are today. Okay. Up until last week, we had been moving forward with the fair and all of its events. That plan we had was approved. We were hopeful that it was going to loosen up come August. The plan we had in place had a cost on it of over $75,000 to implement the recommendations needed to provide the fair the best way we could with a limited capacity, increased signage, stringent disinfecting programs in place. So we were hopeful to move forward at that point, and we were willing to take that risk on the financial side, knowing that we'd have a huge fair this year. We just figured it, especially with Spokane Interstate Fair canceling. We expect a huge fair. Up until last week, we saw a light at the end of the tunnel. When we did not get progressed out of stage 4, that made our road much more difficult to navigate. It's really hard to plan for something 60 days out when you just cannot see what that's going to be. The fair itself is a complex network of businesses, organizations, and people that come together to make an event of this magnitude successful. The cost to produce the fair.
Hold on a second, Alex.
Can everybody mute themselves if you're on the phone line? We don't have an ability to mute you here, so if you can mute yourself on your phone, and then we'll get to you. Thank you.
The cost to produce the fair is over $800,000. That is not county funded. We have to come up with that on our own. Okay. Over 5 days of the fair, we see over 97,000 people at our gates. Our longtime help, our superintendents, 4-H families, vendors have all become very concerned in the last few days. We've been getting calls from people wanting to not attend the fair this year, and that kind of changes things. We rely on those folks to show up to again, produce this fair. Friday, I spoke with Laura, and she gave me a strong recommendation to not move forward with the fair. If we were to ignore that recommendation, the plan we had in place would have to become much more conservative, thus limiting the capacity at our gates. Changing things dramatically. This is changing the face of your fair that you have come to know and love. If we carry forward beyond this point here, we are not only taking a risk with our community, but we're taking a risk with our financial stability for our future of our fair. And that's concerning to me and to our board. They weighed everything, and over the weekend, the board took an email vote and unanimously decided to move forward with the cancellation of the fair, but to continue forward with a 4-H program. Our 4-H youth have worked very, very hard. They are the root and our heritage of this program, and we cannot let them just sit at home. So we have plans in place. Our 4-H program can speak to those plans if you like, to make sure that they can exhibit their projects, show and sell their animals in a safe environment. It is our Fair Board's job to protect our tradition. Our fair is our heritage, and this is a decision that we don't want to come to, but it is the right decision to safeguard our fair's future and our community at this point in time. So I'm going to ask, or I want to let you know that this is not a decision that comes lightly for anybody on this board or for our staff. It's blood, sweat, and tears, and I will promise you it's been a lot of tears to get to this decision and where we are. The risk is just too high. The unknowns are too great. And our future fair requires the tough decision today. If you truly love what we bring to our community, and I know I do, and our fair does, our fair board does, you'll understand that this is a tough decision the board needs to move forward with. And be sad with us, rest knowing that 2021 fair is going to be bigger and brighter than ever before.
Questions for Alexia?
Yes. Let's say that you go ahead with the 4-H portion and things look amazing, and now things are opened up and we're no longer bound by any stages and everything. Is there a possibility to enlarge capacity so more people could come and view the animals and take part in the 4-H?
I think there's a way that we could do that. If things looked like it was able to open up. We've always had a fair plan since March that was very fluid and would move with how how our cases were going or disappearing. There's always a way to make room for more. This gives us the space to allow for distance, keep our kids safe. You know, we turn around and send them to school just a week later. We need to be cautious in moving forward. Does 4-H want to address your plan?
Charlie, you want to come forward, please?
My name is Charlotte Wilson. I'm the extension educator in charge of the 4-H program. As Lexi mentioned, we've been working with her since March. We'd come back with the, okay, plan A would be moving forward as normal. Plan B would be pulling back and just doing some 4-H events, things that we can manage our space, our crowd size a little bit more. We won't have that commercial and carnival draw that the fair on its own would. It would be just about the youth and them being able to complete their 4-H experience for the year. I grew up going to a show in May over in Spokane. It's a junior livestock show. It's just exclusively a 4-H and FFA show where it's just kids and critters. And I always thought that was a really great experience for me as a youth because it was very community focused. We were focused on each other and we didn't have the distractions of carnival and commercial. And while we love all of the goodies that come with fair, I think we can still pull off a very meaningful 4-H event if we can work with Panhandle Health and find that right balance of spacing and timing and working through our schedule to make sure it's appropriate for our community. But I think it's not something that's going to draw in the large crowds that our traditional fair would. We're not going to have the outside vendors or the rodeo contestants or those elements. So it would definitely bring it back to just our community on a much smaller scale. But we can still give that great experience to our 4-H youth that they've looked forward to all year.
Question, can you accommodate social distancing?
I believe we can. It's one of those, with it just being our 4-H members, we could even look at limiting who we can come in as spectators, where we would have access to much more space on the grounds. We can do a lot more to spread things out.
Okay. Director Whalen? You okay?
Yes.
You are.
Yes, I mean, it's certainly, more than willing to work with 4-H, just as we are with any community partner that wants our guidance.
Okay.
Just reminded me, one of the things that has also been very key in our 4-H program is our stock sale that we have offered for years. Before we even came to this point, we were looking at adding an online component. So we would have the sale live, but we would also have streaming digital access to it. So our community can still get online and purchase an animal and support our youth through our sale without actually having to be physically present on the grounds. So just adding some more of those elements. We've been going all spring in the 4-H realm of figuring out how to live through Zoom and communicate and stay in contact. So this is just that next step for us.
Okay. So for everyone's benefit, Charlotte Wilson is the director of the U of I Extension. Okay, so what I'm going to do is before we vote as a board, I'm going to open it up for public comment. It will be limited. We have another meeting at 2 o'clock, which is our business meeting. I'm going to keep comments to 2 minutes. So come forward if you wish. Distance, please. Your name and address, and this is your time. Go right ahead. Anybody wish to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I do that a lot. Commissioners,
Go right ahead.
hi, my name's Jody Gelker, and I live in unincorporated Kootenai County. Thank you very much for the opportunity to voice my opinion regarding the fair. I strongly believe that the fair should be allowed to continue. Panhandle Health reports that Kootenai County has had 243 confirmed cases, and I got that about 9 o'clock this morning off the website, with a population of 157,485 people. This represents a confirmed case rate of 0.15%. We are minimally impacted by this virus. We are economically dependent on tourism. Restaurants are open, the resort is open, services are open. Why not the fair? The fair is fun for locals. Local 4-H kids who've put their heart and soul into raising their project animals, local artisans who quilt, spin, and weave. This is their opportunity to showcase their crafts. Please do not deny them their opportunity. The fair is an open-air venue. Fresh air and sunshine degrade the virus. The fair has always been very good about providing hand-washing stations throughout the fairgrounds. I am sure this will continue. People who choose to wear masks or not attend the fair are free to do so. Finally, our people have been through tough times. People are sad, depressed, and frightened. Our community needs to come together and have wholesome fun again. Please allow our fair to proceed as planned. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Yes, sir, come forward.
Oh, yeah, who's on the phone?
Mr. Commissioner, this is Pat Riley. I would like to speak publicly.
Yeah, absolutely, Pat. We have a gentleman coming forward now. You'll follow him. How's that? Okay, hang on. Hang with us, Pat. Go right ahead, sir. Name and address.
Nathan Toll, 4089 West Pleasant Lane in Post Falls. I am the Kootenai County Republican Central Committee Fair Committee Chairman, and I just want to say the fair is a chance with it being an election year for us to get the candidates out to meet the voters and get people involved with the fair and everything in the election, and a chance for the community just to have a time of enjoyment and stuff. And with having everything going on this year with schools having issues, the graduations being canceled, holidays being canceled, everything else being canceled, this is the one last chance for kids this year to have some sense of normalcy, normal childhood this year. I feel it's at least give kids a chance to have enjoyed a normal fair, or maybe have one-way traffic through the fair, social distance, hand, and all that stuff. But at least let us have the fair this year.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Pat Riley, you're on.
Yes, sir, Mr. Commissioner and other commissioners. I just wanted to weigh in. My name is Pat Riley. I also reside in Kootenai County at 4400 block of North Mount Carroll Street. I would like to speak in support of the director, Ms. Jordan, who I know had a very difficult time with making and rising to the decision to recommend possibly canceling the fair. I would support that. In my endeavors in my professional world, I would not believe that the fair would be able to adequately provide social distancing with the population, which is actually a very good thing with regard to how many people attend. However, I would also like to support the lady who spoke earlier about 4-H. I would honestly think that that would be a very good thing for the Fair Board to consider and the county commissioners to consider supporting. These young folks have worked very diligently over the past several years to bring that to fruition, and I think that the fair would be able to support that and also provide the proper protections. So I stand in opposition to canceling the fair this year during these unprecedented times, and also in support of continuing with the endeavor to support the 4-H. And thank you for this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Russ?
Russell McLean, 2360 East Hayden
You
View.
can pick up the speaker. It's flexible. There you go.
First off, it's really refreshing to listen to these ladies here. They're very reasonable, very practical, and putting the 4-H auction online, that's my Idaho. That's some world-class thinking right there.
Can you speak up?
I was just talking to her. I think listening to these ladies is the right thing to do. You know, right now, our Coeur d'Alene High School football team is all getting tested. Coaches are getting tested. You know, it's ready to really hit the fan. And you know, as much fun as, you know, I've made a lot of money off that fair, tons of money, you know, and a lot of other people have too. It stinks. The whole thing stinks. But I think you guys would be responsible to listen to these two ladies' recommendations. That's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Name and address.
Commissioners, my name is Jeff Tyler. You've seen me here before, 5892 West Harbor Drive, Coeur d'Alene. I'm here today to speak in support of having our fair continue as normal. We're seeing lots of crowds today in the news that are not social distancing. The only information that we're getting is that there is more incidences of COVID, but that's, in my opinion, is due to more testing. And just like the lady mentioned a minute ago, they had a line of 400 people testing today at the hospital. There seems to be a push all over the country right now for people to go and get testing, and I think that's orchestrated to build numbers to keep more things shut down, unfortunately. These days, the people that are suffering are the people that work in private industry, but most state and county and government workers, they haven't had to suffer like most have. After reading the paper this morning and listening to the fine lady here, I've come to the conclusion that they almost want to have more things shut down instead of open them up. I've talked to some restaurant owners and said, well, the state has changed their rating now, but they tell me that they still have to do what Panhandle Health District says. In the paper today, it said the Panhandle Health District noted that there's only one hospitalization in the 5 northern counties. And in the paper, it's quoted by the health district that the precautions for avoiding COVID are the same as those for avoiding the flu and common cold. That's really what this all boils down to. The death rates are dropping the death rates right now are pretty similar to what the flu is. So why are we shutting our economy down and shutting all these fun events down? This community here, they love their freedom. This is considered free America here. Maybe some other areas in Washington and Western Washington might be more aligned with what our health district is doing, the way they feel about things, but we in this community are for our freedom and our liberty, and we are not liking all of these shutdowns that the cities are doing. Some cities are going to have the 4th of July, some aren't. It seems to be political because it seems to be that the left-leaning cities are shutting things down and the others aren't. I think that our community needs to just start opening things up, and I would hope that you guys would consider that. The one thing that you see in the fair are sheep.
You're overdue, but go ahead, wrap up your thought.
I'll wrap it up. One thing you see in the fair is sheep, and the thing about sheep is they scare easily. Let's not be sheep.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Brent Regan, go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Yes, Brent Regan, 6100 East Borley Road. I would like to know what the data is versus what the fear is. We seem to be operating in an environment of fear where we're afraid of what's going to happen, maybe. What's the data? We have this low hospitalization rate. Okay? I don't see how not having the fair affects the elements that the health director was concerned about, which is the testing rate. Those two are completely unrelated. There is actually an optimum infection rate. At the beginning of this, everybody was talking about lowering the curve. And what that means is that we wanted to reduce the infection rate so that the hospitalization rate never exceeded the hospital capacity, right? So that everybody that could be saved from death from this would be. And we didn't have people who needed to get in the hospital that couldn't. Our hospitalization rate now is down in the 40% range when normally it's in 60 because of all the other procedures that are being canceled. and there's apparently one hospitalization right now. So it really doesn't make any sense that you would take extreme precautions in causing the financial hardship in closing a fair and doing the damage that does without having something to rationally counterbalance it, some known thing that you know you're making a rational decision against. The goalposts have been moving. They've gone from lowering the curve so that we don't saturate our hospitals, and now we are talking about, well, we don't want anybody to get the disease, which is ridiculous. You want people to get the disease at some rate. I don't mean to sound harmless, but in order to build up immunity to this in our community, some people are going to have to get the disease. If not, it's going to be hanging around here forever, and we're going to be doing onesie-twosie infections. You know, the 194 active cases right now. That's in the noise. So maybe it's going to go up. Maybe the hospitalizations are going to go up with this recent spike. You know, New Jersey had a huge spike in cases. It turns out because they redefined what COVID is. If you think you have it, that's now having it. And so they had this huge, almost 2,000 case spike, which was simply moving the goalposts. 97,000 people want to go to the fair. Right? How many of those are going to be infected? How many of those are going to be possibly infect other people in an environment that is the least transmissibility? Right? When you have people out in the open air, full of UV light, fresh air, sunshine, it's what people need. And the injury that you're doing by not allowing it has to be considered, and not operating in just an environment of fear. So have the fair, give people informed consent. Tell them if you're in the vulnerable class of people, if you're elderly, if you have other conditions, lung conditions, don't go. Nobody's forcing people to go to the fair. Nobody's forcing them to go. But if you want to accept the risks, go. And one final question for our fair director. How many people are killed or injured every year at our fair? How many? Is it more than zero?
Across the country,
Doesn't matter, really.
I imagine.
Well, I mean, just at a fair, we have a county fair. How many people
Not our fair.
get injured?
Other fair. Yeah.
How many people get food poisoning? I know we had injury. We had an injury the other day, and so should we not have the fair because somebody might get? I mean, look at the carnies. They're setting up these rides that go together and come apart 20 times a year. You know, and you get on one of those things, you're taking your life in your hands. I mean, they're being assembled by people with a third grade education and being paid minimum wage. So, you know, let people know that it's going on. If you want, scan them for temperature on the way in. People can only spread the disease if they've got the disease. This infection, asymptomatic infection rate. There's no scientific evidence that shows it's significant. So, use reason and logic and not just fear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a gentleman who wanted to speak? On the phone. Okay. Okay, we're going to take one more. Name and address, please.
My name is Maddie Lehner. My address is 28646 North Lindsay Lane, Athol. I am 15 years old, and I'd be very thankful to get the chance to show and sell our animals. But to the 4-H kids, it's not just about selling them. It's about making memories, meeting new people. The experience is amazing and so much fun. Dancing at the dance floor, staying up late with friends, eating junk food. It's not just about selling our animals. It's about the overall experience. If you don't want to get sick, you stay home. You can't just shut everything down. How come people can gather in thousands to protest and riot, but we cannot have a family fair? Not only does this impact the many 4-H kids who count down the days, but it also impacts the vendors who make their money at the fair. The fair to me is my favorite week of the year. This is a virus, and viruses do not go away. If we give up now, what does our future hold? We cannot shut the entire country down. We have to start somewhere. Thank you.
And thank you. She was going to be the last one. I'll let you go one more. This is it.
Anybody on the phone?
Jeremiah Jenkins.
Well, I asked before.
11425 East Bunker Road, Athol, Idaho. I'd like to second her opinion, his opinion, and the young lady's opinion. I believe they all spoke very well of the situation. I'd also like to say that we, the American people and Kootenai County, have elected you guys to govern us and to serve us. I believe you guys might be stepping into the boundaries of ruling over us, which we never elected you guys for, especially with shutting down bars, churches, restaurants. You guys are crossing the line into people's livelihoods and way of life, and we never elected anybody to ever do rule
Well,
over
for the
us.
record, sir, we're not the ones who shut them down. That was the governor's order.
Yeah,
Still, you guys
And
need to
that's
be
a whole
standing
nother
up
issue.
for our, I would say, you guys need to be stepping up for our rights as Kootenai County residents, telling the governor, no, we're not shutting down. We are not here to rule over Kootenai County, we're here to govern. You guys, I believe, did not step up for our rights.
That's your
As
opinion,
Kootenai
sir.
County. So,
Okay,
That's it.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, then. So that's it for public comment. Let's move on. We are now going to go into, Alexia, did you want to say something? Okay. Director Whalen, did you want to make a final comment?
No, sir.
Okay. Any thoughts? Let's go.
Well, I just had more questions for Alexia. If we were to put off a decision, I mean, I think going ahead with 4-H is no-brainer at all. My concerns are if you have workers who are dropping out, if you have vendors who are dropping out and those kinds of things, that, I mean, where does that leave you? That already leaves you in a pared-down event. So I'm concerned about the costs that, will be on the backs of the taxpayers if you hold the fair and you don't have the attendance that is needed to cover those costs. So that does concern me. I'm not ready to say no to anything right now. I just think that we need the next couple weeks to find out how this is going to look, but I don't know that you have a couple weeks because of the contracts and that kind of thing. Can you speak to that?
We need to attack this between the 60 and 45-day window. You're already within that time period. We have contracts we will be financially obligated to if we don't make the decision now. I don't think you guys want to foot the bill if we have to cancel closer to the fair because this gets out of hand. I don't know that that's the financial risk you guys are willing to take. And I know we don't have it in our bank to make it happen.
Right.
Unless you got a sponsor with 1.2 million in their pocket right now.
Bill, thoughts?
I don't think we're in any position to take on that kind of a risk. My fear is the 4th of July holiday is going to be a peak period with gatherings for infection. But it generally takes 14 days to show. That being the case, that puts us way inside the time when we should have canceled these contracts, and we will begin to be liable for those contracts. And I, for one, as a county commissioner, number one, won't bail you out. But number two, I don't want to destroy your future by saddling the fair with $800,000 worth of penalties, because that will destroy the fair, if not for all time, for a long time. So that's where I'm coming from. But I want to hear more about the 4-H. I mean, are we going to open it up to the public to come into the 4-H or restrict it to families and friends, or what do you do? I mean, I don't want these kids to be hanging out. They put a lot of work in here.
Well, again, like the FAIR plan was, it's a fluid plan. We have to monitor what's happening in our community. We want to have 4-H families come out and enjoy watching their kids once again. Our barns, if you spend any time in our barns during full capacity at fair time, it's tight. Everything needs to get moved outside. I mean, we can make this look
But there's
great, and we can.
there's no contractual expense, is there, with the
Oh,
4-H?
the majority of it, we can still get.
Or minimal?
Minimal,
Is that-
right.
is that minimal?
And our sponsors are willing to help us in
Work
that
with us,
department, and we want to, everybody wants to see our 4-H youth get together.
Because I'd like to, hate to say it, cancel the fair. Keep the 4-H.
I think that's the right decision to make sure we have a wonderful future ahead of us, and we do have a very bright future ahead of us.
You're done? Okay, I'm going to jump in here, too. I always find the discussion of epidemiology fascinating. I'm not an epidemiologist, and to the best of my knowledge, no one here is. And some of the arguments are fascinating on both sides of the issue, and I think we've all heard them on both sides of the issue. So I'm going to sidestep that because that's not what we're here for. One of our key challenges as county commissioners is to manage risk, and primarily when it comes to financial risk, but other risks as well. And I am not willing to sign up to take the risk for a potential $800,000 plus loss by going ahead at a time when most other major functions are being canceled, whatever one thinks of the infection rate. The fact of the matter is, we have to ensure the future of the fair. We know what it means to everyone. I have no issue with the 4-H. I think that ought to go forward if Director Whalen, Executive Director Alexia Jordan agree, along with Charlotte Wilson. The three of you, if you will, can work the details. I think if we can do something for the kids, it's great. But to proceed with the fair, given what we know, given the fact that the Fair Board unanimously decided to cancel the fair, and along with the recommendation of Director Whalen at Panhandle Health, I think it would be careless on our part. But if you want to go forward with 4-H, I'm all for it. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'd make a motion that we cancel the fair except for the 4-H, and that we leave the actual, how that works, in the hands of the fair manager and the fair board, because I know they want it to work.
Is there a second? I will second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan.
Nay.
Chairman Philios.
Aye, and the motion is carried. Time is 1:51, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.